And if we just take a look around the league here, the AL East, the Rays won that division. Blue Jays get the wild card. The Yankees, 74 wins. Horrible season for the Bronx Bombers. Great at home, awful on the road. And does it say their division record? Is that just in the regular standings? I guess not. I don't see their in-division record here. But anyways, just not a great season for the Yankees whatsoever. The Royals end up winning with a plus 103 run differential in the AL Central. Pretty wild team there. They've gotten some power numbers from Adalberto Mondesi here. MJ Melendez has been in a really clicking on the wrong guy here. MJ Melendez has been a really, really good power hitting catcher for them. 25 bombs, even swiping 17 bags as a leader. I mean, he is insane. 159, that is Jesus. MJ Melendez, probably the best catcher in the game right now. Nick Prato's up for them. Bobby Witt Jr.'s been fine, I guess. And it looks like they picked up Graham Ashcraft from the Reds, who was very good with the Reds, pretty good with the Reds this season. In the bullpen, they've been starting him. He hasn't been as good, but he is still a member of their team. Looks like they're definitely an offense-first club. Maybe not, because they've actually given up the least amount of runs and then scored the fourth most. I don't really know how, because their pitching doesn't seem that good, but more power to them. Well, in the West, the Texas Rangers winning a very, very mediocre division. I mean, -8 run differential, the best being +7 in the Mariners. And the Rangers somehow eke into the playoffs here with Corey Seager hitting 40 bombs, Brett Phillips with an absolutely atrocious leadoff man. Jack Leiter seems like he's slightly below average pitcher for them. But how did they get Brett Phillips? Because they have Margot. They got him from waivers. And they also have Manuel Margot, who they signed to a one-year deal in the offseason. So they've got a bunch of former Rays players. And then especially with Nathaniel Lowe here, also former A's player. Or Rays player, I should say. Well, in the National League here, you get the Mets winning 102 games, just being an absolute wagon. The Cardinals win the Central with 88 wins, classic NL Central stuff. And then the West here, you've got the Dodgers just being an absolute wagon, plus 201 run differential. The Padres making the playoffs as well. And then you've got us and the Giants here being very middling teams. It looks like we were some road warriors this season. Better on the road, awful at home. Ketel Marte almost won the batting title once again. It's O'Neal Cruz who gets it this season, and they've got him playing first base, not shortstop. Probably for the better with his ratings in this game. I'd probably play him at third, honestly, more than first with that arm. I mean, that's just a waste at first base. But I mean, he's one of the best bats in baseball in this sim. So can't really blame him if it's going to work with the bat. And then Ketel Marte here in 2, Alek Thomas in 3rd. Miguel Sano having a breakout season in the Red Series in 2024, and then also, or is it 2025? I forget what year we're in the Reds, but him doing that in the Red Series with the Braves, and then also coming in here, 54 home runs for Miguel Sano, leading the league with the Cubs. Ketel Marte also here top 10 in batter WAR. He's got the 6th highest WAR in the season, first belonging to Rushman, and then Melendez right behind him. So top 2 players being catchers, 2 young catchers in the American League. Second most hits in the league belong to Ketel Marte. I mean, look at this. 2 National League guys up in almost in the 200s, and then you got Vladimir Guerrero leading the American League with like 20 less than them. 3rd most doubles in baseball, too. Jose Barrero, wow. 2nd most doubles behind Xander. You got Ketel here 3rd. Joe Adell. Wish you could do that for the Reds. On the pitching side of things here, you got George Kirby with the best ERA in baseball of the Mariners. I don't believe he ever really panned out in my Mariners series that I did. But it looks like Tyler Glasnow is a closer now for the Rays. Leads the league in saves. He expects to be in the rotation, but I mean, he's absolutely tearing things up as a closer here. Didn't pitch last year because he was hurt, but he's back now, and he is just lights out at the back end of the bullpen. I mean, Jacob deGrom's peppered all over here. Wins, pitcher WAR, innings pitched, Jacob deGrom and strikeouts. It's Jacob deGrom. George Kirby with the best ERA plus, and then you got our man Nunez here with the 4th most holds in baseball this season. Here we go on the fielding side of things. Varsho and Rojas playing a lot of games for us, and then 4th most or tied for 4th most pass balls, Carson Kelly. Keep it up, man. Keep it up. Looking like Gary Sanchez out there. And then the streaks are always really interesting to look at, too. We got the scoring streak, Buddy Kennedy. 9 games in a row with an RBI, Buddy Kennedy. Ketel Marte had 8 games in a row. Uceda with an undefeated streak, which is apparently still going on. And apparently Luis Frias had 11 innings in a row with no hits. Also just taking a look at some of the team stats here, and we had the most triples in baseball. So 42 triples hit by the D-backs. That is definitely because of Chase Field. Chase Field's actually a really extra base hit heavy ballpark. It's really up there with the Rockies, as you can see. Coors Field, they're right behind us. So here's what the playoff bracket looks like right now. You get the Guardians, Blue Jays, Tigers, and Rangers all in the wild card. And then over here you got the Phillies, Padres, Giants, and Cardinals in the wild card, with the Mets and Dodgers and the Rays and the Royals awaiting those teams. Alrighty, the full season has come to an end here. We had a very fine score. Interesting. This is a very fine score, despite us being a very not great team this season. And if we take a look at what am I looking for here? The standings, the playoff tree. The New York Mets win the World Series here in 7 games over the Detroit Tigers. Tigers swept the Rays, my poor Rays, losing out to the Blue Jays. Or they beat the Blue Jays easily, get swept by the Tigers here. The Tigers beat the Royals, and they came all the way from the wild card round and took the Mets to 7 games, who were a wagon this season. The Mets beat the Padres, who came out of the wild card, beat the Dodgers. I mean, they took the long way here. They went the distance in every series, and they end up getting it done. The New York Mets are World Series champions. So we are here in the off-season now, and it is time to do all the stuff you do in the off-season. First, we can see here that our owner has set our budget to $162 million. I'm pretty sure this is just exactly what it was last year, so nothing's really changed. But we do have quite a bit more change this offseason for free agents and for extensions, so that is good news. We also do not have any options to accept or decline this offseason. We just got a bunch of minor league personnel to replace. We did have an option on Mark Melanson's deal, but as you can see here, he actually retired, so Mark Melanson is no longer a player here in this universe. And the top 100 prospect list here at the end of the season has been published. So if we take a look, who on our team, Tamar Johnson, and that's it. The only player in the top 100 batters from Arizona is Tamar Johnson, who is the 20th. As you can see here, not the best season for him in high A ball. Well, on the pitching side of things, the only player for us is the 65th best pitcher in Blake Walston. Definitely a guy who's probably, I don't know why it's showing his OSA ratings, but definitely a guy who's probably going to get a shot when he does come back from his partially torn UCL. In the big leagues, that is, he's going to get a shot. But overall, here are the players that we are going to have to make decisions on for arbitration. Most of these guys will probably be coming back, except for like Dubois. I'm probably going to try to trade Dubois, possibly. I mean, he's, possibly going to stick around as like a decent, because he was really good in AAA this year. I mean, I would expect him to be good in AAA. He's a solid player. Maybe bring him back as a depth guy, but I mean, I can just go back here. He's gonna, I mean, that's fine. I guess we'll probably bring him back. Maybe not. Well, he's a guy who's on the brink. We'll see. Josh Rojas, definitely going to be back for at least one more season. If we take a look at the salaries page, he does have 3 more seasons of team control here, so we do have him for quite a bit. Edmundo Sosa, there's no point in getting rid of him already. Dalton Varsho and also Carson Kelly are guys who Pavin Smith are guys we could possibly look to flip here in the offseason. Varsho's the main one. Obviously, he's a good player. He's one of our better hitters. Obviously played right field for us. He's had back-to-back 3 WAR seasons. He's been a very solid bat for us. 20-plus home runs, 35-plus, basically 35 doubles both seasons. Obviously, that's a very consistent hitter. The thing with us, though, is he is 27. If we take a look at his salary, at the salary page here, Varsho has 3 more years of team control, which is a little bit less than Thomas has, which we have him signed through quite a bit. And we also have Corbin Carroll, who we just called up, who we also have quite a bit of team control with. Obviously, 3 years of team control is still a decent amount for Varsho, but he is definitely the oldest of the bunch. And the thing we have with our outfield right now is we have a lot of corner outfielders. Like even Jake McCarthy could be a guy who could be the fourth outfielder for us. I'd be fine with that. Gigliotti, maybe he's the center fielder for us next season. I'd have to see how we feel going into the offseason here. But ideally, it's Thomas in left field and Corbin Carroll, who finished the year on the IL here. 5 days left on his injury. He had a very solid. He managed to rebound quite nicely. I'm not sure if I showed this or not, but he was really bad when he first came up here. He sort by major leagues. Yeah, really, really bad in June and July. Really, really good in August and September before he got hurt. So definitely good to see there. I mean, that's a pretty absurd walk to strikeout rate there for him. Obviously, not much pop shown in his time up here, but I mean, my scout thinks he's very good. He could absolutely be a very, very solid corner outfield tandem with Alek Thomas. So like I said, ideally, it's Alek Thomas and Corbin Carroll on the corners for us. And then we have an actual center fielder, because Thomas this year was very good and only had a 2.9 WAR. Probably deserved a bit higher WAR, but probably because he was one of the worst defensive center fielders, if not the worst defensive center fielder in baseball this season. So I do feel like it would be in our best interest to trade Varsho, open up his spot on the roster so we can have those two guys in the corners, have somebody else as the fourth outfielder, and we're able to possibly improve our pitching here, because that is really the thing that we're trying to improve a lot, because Zach Gallen, our number one, he's not an ace. Christopher Sanchez, even if he ends up being good as a starter, not an ace either. Tyler Holton's not really a guy long-term. Kyle Muller was good since coming over, and, you know, maybe he's like a third or fourth guy, but he's also not an ace. So ideally, also Brandon Pfaadt came up and then had 2 starts and was pretty good in both those starts. But I mean, we don't really have a true ace here in the big leagues, or even really a number one, honestly, because Zach Gallen, if he pitches like he did this season, we definitely need some better options in the pitching. And it's also not like we have any guys immediately ready to come up here to the major leagues, like Blake Walston is hurt. He'll probably be ready for next season's start, but I mean, he's, you know, maybe he's a good starter, but it probably, you know, I don't know. Shouldn't rule him out, but he's definitely the most highly touted one we have. Bryce Jarvis, I mean, maybe he could be like a 5th starter for us. Kenny Hernandez, also a guy who's like maybe a 5th starter possibly. Within our other pitching prospects is like Francisco Capocci, who we took in the draft in 2023 in the 3rd round. He's, I mean, in rookie ball, he's far away from the big leagues. Michael Ferre, same deal with him. He was an A-ball this year. He was really bad in A-ball too. Not great there. We've also got somebody like Joe Elvis, who is currently in high A and barely pitched this season, was not good in those innings either, because in 2022, where he was also not good in high A, but he was in regular A. It wasn't even that good in A. He basically wasn't that good in A-ball in 2022. Got hurt and missed basically all of 2023. And he's not really a guy who's, you know, high work ethic, high intelligence, but he's still pretty young, but not really a guy I'm looking to be like a top end of the rotation starter. So basically the point here, and that I've been rambling for 20 minutes, it feels like, is that we are trying to improve the pitching here. And we have guys who all have pretty similar skill sets at a few positions, and one of those will be trading Darsho. Pavin Smith, another guy who could possibly net us a decent starter as well. He doesn't really have a spot on this team anymore. As well as Carson Kelly, who is a catcher, obviously, who's not really that great, but I mean, he still has some trade value, so might as well try to trade him and get a different catcher here for us in the big leagues, and maybe, you know, get some pitching for him. I believe that we have found a trade for Dalton Varsho that gets us 2 starting pitchers, at least for this season, 1 long-term, just 2 for this season. But so Dalton Varsho to the Angels in return for Patrick Sandoval, Noah Syndergaard, Ryan Kostu, and Werner Blakely, while we give them Bryce Jarvis, Cooper Hummel, Merrill Kelly's contract, and Raul Rail Santos. But so Varsho, we know the deal with him. We just need to open up his spot in the roster. Might as well get trade value for him, and we get value in the rotation for him. That's what Patrick Sandoval is. Very good starter. We all know about his changeup, elite changeup stuff, ground ball pitchers. Those are the type of pitchers I usually try to acquire in my OOTP saves. He has been pretty solid the past 2 years. Last year, the 2 WAR, 3.5 R WAR, very solid ERA plus. Last year, a bit less in the ERA plus, but he did have a pretty solid FIP overall. Although it looks like it was about around below. No, what am I saying? It was below league average FIP. No, above league average FIP, below league average ERA. So probably just got a bit unlucky. He is on the Angels, so maybe he comes to an actual organization and he starts pitching even better. But I mean, even as he is right now, I think he's a very, very good pitcher. Only 27 years old. He's got 3 years of major league service time. We would probably try to extend him at some point, maybe even this offseason when we trade for him. Well, we also get Noah Syndergaard, who is a very solid pitcher, as we all know, 31 years old. He would be on our team for 1 season because this season was 2023. He's signed for 1 more year at $22 million. I'm fine with paying him $22 million for 1 year. Ground ball pitcher, very solid past 2 seasons. All around, very good year in 2023. Although the ERA plus, once again, same thing with Sandoval. Bad ERA, great FIP last season, and then he was about league average in 2022. But he's going to come in, and I mean, he puts up a season even like he did in 2022. That is value to our rotation that we have not had at this point. Ryan Kostu, however you say this guy's last name here, is a almost 23-year-old reliever. We're just doing the move of adding in a reliever who could help us down the stretch here. He was an A-ball last season. Very good in 41 innings, extremely good down there, striking out a bunch of guys, not walking too many. He is going to be at least in Double-A to start the season, but he could be a very fast riser through the system for us and eventually be in the major leagues. And Werner Blakely is a almost 22-year-old lefty-righty shortstop. Although I'm not sure if he would end up at shortstop for us. I would be playing him, if we take a look at his ratings here, it looks like he can play a pretty decent, really any position. So I'd probably be playing him in a bunch of different positions, trying to get his rating up, make him a utility guy, and maybe he's valuable that way. And, his ratings, my scout would, at least what my scouts and OSA thinks of his ratings, not the best contact, could be a pretty good home run hitter, or at least a league average discipline possibly. Going to strike out a decent amount, but he does have some pretty good gap power, which these gap power guys do tend to, hit a lot of doubles, as you would think, get a lot of extra base hits, and he has been really good in the sim so far. 2022, not so much. But in 2023, really broke out in A-ball, had a 2 WAR, 129 WRC plus, got called up to Double-A, and was also really good in Double-A as well. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing if he can continue performing like that for us and our minor league system, while also working on some possible, other positions to his repertoire here, so he could become possibly a utility player. And you see here, my GM thinks that he cannot endorse this proposal. But I mean, literally, if I just take away all these guys and do it just for Sandoval, he's like, oh my God, do it immediately. If I just do a straight up Varsho for Sandoval deal right up, he's just like, oh, do it immediately. But I mean, I'd rather have 2 pitchers help us. So, I mean, we're giving up Jarvis, who probably is just going to be like a 5th starter if he ever actually reaches his potential. And even then, he's, 26, hasn't pitched in the major leagues yet, hasn't been to AAA. I'm fine with giving him up and getting somebody like Sandoval. Cooper Hummel, obviously is very, very good in AAA, but he is a guy who, he's in a logjam. We have too many corner outfielders. We have a bunch of guys who are similar level of player of him. Not the high discipline, but just a similar level of like a 4th outfield type guy who could come in and give you some innings or some starts. And we just don't, he's never going to play every day for us in the major league. So might as well get some value out of him. Merrill Kelly, as we know, we've been trying to dump this contract. He's on the books for next season at $8 million and then a team option. So we're just dumping his contract to the the Angels, so we take on the rest of Syndergaard, and then we just lighten the load of taking on Syndergaard because we wouldn't also still be paying Merrill Kelly. And then Raul Santos is a guy when I added Merrill Kelly to the deal, I needed to add one more guy, so I did to make it work. And there's just this random reliever in high A who's hasn't been good, so I was like, sure, you can have this guy. But we are going to pull the trigger on this deal. So Dalton Varsho is going to go to the Los Angeles Angels, and Patrick Sandoval and Noah Syndergaard will be joining the Diamondbacks roster right away. So just taking a look at what our rotation could possibly look here before we make any other trades. I mean, I feel like Sandoval, Gallen, Syndergaard, Muller, Sanchez, Fat is a pretty solid 6 guys right here, especially if they pitch to how they're capable of doing. Like if Muller still pitches like he was for us when he came over last year, I'm definitely good with that. Obviously, cutting down on the home runs a bit would be good, but I mean, I'm confident he can be at least a solid back end of the rotation guy. And even if he isn't, somebody like Tyler Holton maybe could take on that spot. Jonathan Bermudez is a guy who could come in to that like back end of the rotation spot. Or even somebody down in AAA like Blake Walston when he's back from his injury, or even Corbin Martin, who definitely has the ratings, at least what my scout thinks his ratings are, to be a decent back end of the rotation guy. Or even somebody like Kenny Hernandez, who is somebody who, despite not really being the best ratings-wise, at least what my scout thinks, he has performed at both levels. So he's definitely, maybe a sleeper candidate here to be a 5th starter for us. Or 6th if we go with the 6-man rotation. If you also remember, we traded for Luis Gil from the Yankees last year. Probably more of a reliever because remember we traded for him after he missed basically all of last year in with an injury, which was he tore his labrum. We picked him up while he was still recovering from the torn labrum. Pitched 2 innings in rookie ball because I totally forgot about him, and he was down there. Pitching 2 games when he came back from his injury, and now we have him in AAA. But once again, he's probably more of a reliever, so probably not really a starter option for us. Also, somebody like Slade Sassoni here, whatever his name is, possible future starter here, was pretty around league average in AA for us, both in 2022 and 2023, and then was league average as well out of the bullpen, essentially. Coming up, but my scat isn't very high on him either. The point is, though, I feel like we have a pretty solid depth situation going on here for our back end of the rotation, and even just the 1, 2, 3 of Sandoval, Gallen, and Syndergaard, I feel like could be a very solid 1, 2, 3. Sandoval, I mean, I feel like he's pretty good. Gallen, ratings are pretty good. He's capable of having a good season. It wasn't like he was awful last year either. I mean, it's just he's not, the only good guy on the rotation level of a starter. And then even Syndergaard, putting up even like a mid-2 war season. If we have 3 guys who are like that in the rotation at the top, even I will take that any day of the week. At least especially in comparison to what our rotation has been like so far throughout this series. So because of that, I don't feel like we particularly need to trade for pitching with the other guys we're trying to trade here. Like Carson Kelly is a guy who we only have for 1 more year, and I'm not really too concerned with bringing him back after that if we do decide to keep him for 1 more season. Even keeping him for 1 more season is not really something I'm too interested in doing here. Maybe even just bringing back Austin Hedges and just going all out with the leader and catcher ability as our catcher position is something we could go with. I mean, we had Nick Ahmed just rotting away in the 9-hole for 2 seasons, and our offense was fine both seasons. So maybe just having Hedges as the 9-hitter instead is a completely fine thing to do here for us. We traded for this Antonini guy from St. Louis at the deadline last year. He's fine. Is he really a starting catcher? Probably not. We've also got somebody like D'Alessandro who's also fine. Probably not a starting catcher either. We got our man Silas Audouin, who's definitely better with the catcher ability, more of a defensive catcher than the other guys. I like the high work ethic, intelligence. Unfortunately, he hasn't been great in AA since coming up. Not really striking out, but, not really hitting his potential either. Definitely seems like he's not very challenged here in AA, so maybe he ends up being our AAA catcher next season, and he ends up being at the big leagues at some point. And just a little rough draft of what our lineup could look like as of right now before making any other acquisitions or call-ups or whatever. This is all the guys we have in the 40-man roster right now who are bats. Probably some of these guys aren't going to be on the team. Like maybe we trade Seth Beer at some point because, he's a bat. He's fine, but maybe we try to get a reliever from him or something. I mentioned that we trade Pavin Smith. Michael Stefanich here is a guy who was quite solid for us in AAA last year, and he's somebody who could play first base or second or maybe some corner outfield as well. But maybe he ends up being like a backup first baseman for us along with Bohm, because I do want to roll with Buddy Kennedy after the season that he had as our first baseman. Well, second base is pretty set. That's Ketel Marte. Third base is pretty set to be Josh Rojas. Shortstop is either going to be Perdomo or Sosa. Probably ends up being Perdomo, though, just to, he's 24. He's the younger guy. Probably has more upside than Sosa does, but we'll have to see how it goes. Well, left field is probably going to be Carroll. Right field's going to be Thomas. Center field, I don't have anybody there right now because we could end up acquiring somebody, but right now our only options to be center field is either Gigliotti, who would definitely just be like a guy who can work some walks and hopefully play a decent center field for us, or it would be a guy like Esteury Ruiz, who could be, some swing and miss potential, hit some doubles, hit some home runs, and maybe play a decent center field for us as well. But he was a guy who started off last year in the bigs, was not good for us in Arizona, 110 plate appearances, wasn't that great in AAA either. And it's not like he's as good of a center fielder to, be a guy who comes up and plays a bad center field and not hit. And McCarthy is just absolutely not a guy who can play center field. Definitely a guy who can play corners, but he is not a center fielder. Well, the DH is going to be some combination of either Jeremiah Jackson, possibly giving him the time that he needs of being an everyday bat. Definitely, probably the highest potential middle of the order type bat guy. I mean, obviously wasn't good when coming over from Los Angeles or the Angels at the trade deadline, but he also didn't really get too much time as an everyday player. Also, there's Alec Burleson, could be a solid DH for us, or there is Isaac Paredes, who we could possibly give another shot to, but he was also a guy who was not good in AAA or the big leagues last season, but the BABIP definitely came into part of it, just really getting gypped with his BABIP, just all over his career, just hitting a really, really low BABIP. And then, of course, Austin Hedges I have slotted in as the starting catcher, but we could acquire somebody else. We could just get a backup for him. But really, the only thing we could possibly really look to go out and get in this offseason position player-wise is maybe an upgrade at center field. Even if that's an all-defense player, I would not be opposed to either trading for one of those types of guys or signing somebody in free agency to like a 2-3 year deal. We're going to be making one small-time trade here, just a swap of sort of like fringe players. So Seth Beer is going to go to the Texas Rangers. Obviously, you know about Seth Beer. Guy just hasn't really hit for us here in the big leagues on either opportunity that he's gotten. Maybe a quad A guy. He's going to go to Texas and maybe figure things out there. While we are going to acquire Adolis Garcia, who's only got 2 years of service time. Interesting player here. Spent 2023 in the minors, hit 31 home runs, hit 31 home runs in the big leagues in 2022, hit 31 home runs in the big leagues in 2021. Obviously not a guy who's going to hit consistently, but his thing is he is going to hit home runs. He's going to hit quite a bit of them, and he's got some speed to his game. He can play a decent enough center field as well as the corners. He's not a total disaster of a player to have in the center field position, and he could help us out with our whole thing where we just don't have any power bats in the order. So Adolis Garcia is going to be acquired from the Texas Rangers here for Seth Beer, swapping that right now. And like I said, we are going to go out and offer Patrick Sandoval an extension. He's 27 years old here. This is going to be overpaying him for a couple years of arbitration, but not by much. But I mean, if he turns out to be a really good pitcher for us, I mean, getting a really good pitcher at $6 million for five seasons, he'll be through his age 31. I mean, that's pretty solid. So boom, this is the offer he's going to get here: $6 million for 5 years. Sign him through his age 31 season. If we go and take a look As you can see here, I mean, he's only slotted to make 2 this year, but I mean, I feel like we could get some real solid value at 6 million. So we're going to give him 6 million through, what is it, 2028? So I've been doing some shop of players of Carson Kelly and also Pavin Smith as a garbage truck goes through my apartment complex right now. And there aren't too many interesting deals here. They both have very similar trade value. I'm not sure which one I'll end up doing a deal here with. But one of the more interesting ones is Anthony DeSclafani, Freehold, New Jersey native. Decent control, 3 good pitches here. Not the greatest stuff, but once again, ratings don't mean everything. My scout's a little lower on him than OSA is, but also my scout has higher accuracy than OSA does. And he's a guy who had a pretty solid 2022 with the Giants, and then in 2023 kind of took a dip down, wasn't as good. And while he wasn't as good, he also had the lowest BABIP in the league. So, I mean, he was getting really, really lucky with ground balls and whatnot, and he still couldn't have a good season. So that's not really something I'm trying to acquire, even if it is for 1 year, because 2023 is what we just played, and we would only be acquiring him for 2024 here. The other guy I'm interested in is if we scroll up to Cleveland here. There's a few deals like they're trying to dump off Shane Bieber's contract on us while he's out with a torn UCL. Or Nathan Eovaldi here. I'm not interested in that either for 5 years. And guys who are just getting extensions and whatnot, like Brad Keller. And I don't really have any interest in picking up like a 35 potential starter. So the one there also, Sanzatella, is a guy who would be interesting if he wasn't signed through 2027. Even if that is a pretty decent term there, I'm not really trying to have him on the team. I mean, he could be a good option for us. Like, he's basically around a league average pitcher with the Rockies last season. Was not good in 2022. But, things could definitely improve if he comes to pitch for us rather than the Rockies and Coors Field. You would expect the high movement ground ball to help him out in Coors Field, but so far it hasn't really done too many favors for him. But I mean, he could be a guy we go after. I'm not the biggest fan of giving him this money, or not. Like I said, not that 12 million is like the most amount of money, but I mean, guaranteed at least 3 years on our team. I don't know how I feel about that, but Trevor Stephan here, Trevor Stephan, however you say his name. 27-year-old, almost 28-year-old right-hander, 96 to 98. He's a decent starter, only 45 overall potential according to my head scouts. OSA is a little bit lower in the movement, a little bit higher on the control for OSA. But he does have good stuff. He's got 4 solid pitches here, a very, very good fastball. Has enough stamina to start. He expects to be playing in the major leagues, because they had him all in AAA last year, and he was very solid. He was actually pretty good in a mix of starting and in the bullpen in 2022 for them as well. Definitely going to be like a high strikeout. I'll take around a 3 walk per 9. He could definitely be a solid arm for us, and I'm interested in getting him. He's only got 2 years of service time here, so he still has a few years of team control on him. He's not even eligible for arbitration yet. The thing is, I don't believe I'm going to want to give up Carson Kelly just for Trevor Stephan here. So let's just see who we would be able to give up here. Yeah, so we would be able to just give them somebody like Nunez, who is listed as a starting pitcher for whatever reason. And we don't want that. He is a reliever. I don't know why he expects to be a starter. I guess because he expects to be a bullpen. His current projected role is starter. I mean, I guess he could be like a starter, because I know stamina isn't really the most important stat. Like, you can get away with a guy who has 35 stamina as a starter, I think. So maybe we try him as a starter if we go starting pitcher. He's got like similar outlook as Stephan here, but Stephan's definitely got higher stamina. But he does have much better pitches than Stephan does. But at least for now, we're going to leave him in the bullpen. But even if, having multiple guys who can be starters for us is definitely something I'm not opposed to having. So I'm not really interested in giving them any of these guys. I mean, Nunez is fine. Uceda, I like. He's not the highest rated guy, but he's been performing for us in the bullpen the past 2 seasons and in an opener role as well in 2022. So I'm not really trying to give him up for Steppen and just get another guy who could possibly just end up being a bullpen arm. Not trying to give up, Jeremiah Jackson or any of these guys. So I want to see if we can just add in Pavin Smith. And then what could I add in to sweeten the deal here? I could add in Joe Elvis, but I don't really want to do that because he's still 21 years old. He just turned 21. He could end up being a pretty decent back end of the rotation guy for us. The high work ethic, intelligence, definitely something I don't want to just give up on. Also, if you're wondering why he's still an A-ball because he was hurt all last year and why he's still an A-ball, I haven't combed through the minor leagues and gone through and done all the promotions, demotions, releases, and whatnot. So he's still in high A, but he will definitely be in double A to start next season. So I'll just do that right now. We'll just promote him to double A Amarillo, and that's where he'll be starting next season. He is still, sometimes this takes a few days to fully update, but so far he's going to be in double A, the Oregon State guy. Juan Aparicio is a guy who could be an interesting guy to just ship off for some value here because my scout and OSA are pretty drastically different on this guy. He's got low work ethic, hasn't done really much for us. He was pretty good in rookie ball in 2022 in 65 plate appearances, so doesn't really mean anything. And then he's got a 40 potential, so I bumped him up to A-ball, and he just wasn't good in barely any time. But I mean, even if he does fully develop, he's probably never going to be too great here. So I wouldn't mind adding him onto a deal just to sweeten the pot here. I mean, even my assistant GM, not that I care too much about what he says, thinks that we should just do this in a heartbeat. So I think this is what we're going to do here. Pavin Smith and Juan Aparicio, who is the low work ethic infielder who's far away from the major leagues if he ever gets there. Going to go to Cleveland, and in return, we are going to get Trevor Steffen, who is the main piece in the deal here. Hard-throwing right-hander who could possibly be in our rotation here to start the season. Jose Furman, who is a guy who has spent the last 2 years in Double-A being a very solid hitter. He's never going to walk much, but he's also going to strike out an absurdly low amount of times. He's a very interesting player. We will have to re-sign him, but I'm fine with doing that. And then also Brawny Munoz here, who is a right-handed pitcher. Soft tosser. He could be something okay. Definitely a guy who could be a spot starter type guy. He'll be in double A for us to start the season. Hasn't really put up too great numbers here, but maybe we could find a dime in the rough with him, just getting some extra value out of the deal here. And we're going to be sending Smith to Cleveland. So let's do it. We're also going to go ahead and offer Austin Hedges a 2-year extension. The second year is a team option. He might be our everyday catcher this season. At the very worst, he's our backup. But, if it works out, if we have a really good pitching staff with him as the starter, I'd probably end up bringing him back. And it's very, very low money for both these seasons. So we're going to go ahead and just offer him this deal. So checking in with Jordan Lawler, who ended last season in Double-A and was very, very good in Double-A. A 3-WAR in Double-A, 2-WAR in High A. I mean, he even cut down his strikeout rate in basically the same amount of ABs that he had in the High A. Very, very intriguing. Had more home runs, too. Very intriguing year for Jordan Lawler. I believe he's gotten quite a boost here as well, because I believe this is actually looking kind of weak at the end of last season. And let's take a look at the scouting here. Yes, he did. He improved quite a bit in the August report. So Jordan Lawler, all of a sudden looking like he's ready to come up here. So we're going to start him in AAA probably. We're going to be adding him to the 40-man roster eventually as well. I do have to comb through and see what we're going to do there for the 40-man roster. I don't believe he is... Yeah, he is not eligible for the Rule 5 draft. But, I mean, he could come out, play some shortstop for us. Right now it's basically either going to be Geraldo Perdomo or Edmundo Sosa at shortstop. And I mean, Jordan Lawler is definitely a guy who we could have come up and just immediately play for us if we need that to be. So is he going to be the opening day shortstop? Maybe. Is he going to be our shortstop in, mid-May? Also maybe. Another very interesting guy we have is Davison de los Santos, who is a 20-year-old, only very early into his age 20 season, only 133 days. I mean, he started, or he was in 2022. In 2022, he was in high A. Wasn't the greatest with the WRC plus. He had a lot of doubles, a lot of home runs. His power numbers, his power potential was like, this guy's got MLB power already. So I put him in double A because he had a ton of ABs and A ball already. So we put him in double A, and he was, around a league average hitter overall, struck out a ton, didn't walk much, but he hits home runs, baby. And he could definitely be like a first baseman type guy for us. I'd never play him at third, but I mean, he's definitely like a DH first base possibility. He's only 20 years old, and he's unhappy with his role on team, so that probably means he's wanting to come up to AAA here. And I'm probably going to indulge him in that by promoting him to AAA Reno, and that's where he is going to start. Hasn't changed yet, but maybe it'll change in a couple day or two. Maybe he comes up to AAA Reno this season and is like really good. And if we ever need a power bat, then if we need a guy to come up and play first base for us or DH, I mean, he is definitely an option to be looked at. So we're doing some shopping here for Carson Kelly and just any player. And there aren't too many interesting ones here. There's definitely more value here than there was for Pavin Smith because Carson Kelly is indeed a catcher. My scout's pretty high on him, but he just hasn't performed. He's going to be making $6 million this year. It's his last year of arbitration, I believe, or next year is. I think this is I believe it's going to be his last year of arbitration this year, this upcoming season, and then he's free agent after the year. Let me just double check that if I go to front office and salaries. So this upcoming year is going to be his last year of team control. So. He hasn't been good. He's actually gotten worse from season to season. Very similar numbers though, but I mean, he's just, he's not good. So Carson Kelly, we're going to try to get some value out of him here. And the one thing that stands out to me here is Jay Groom. The high greed, low leader, low loyalty is definitely annoying, but he is a ground ball pitcher. I like ground ball guys. He couldn't even end up being a starting pitcher. These ratings could definitely translate well to being a starter. He expects to be a starter. His projected role is a starter. Last year, he was in the bullpen for them, and he was actually very solid in 86 and 2/3 innings, striking out about 10 guys, walking about 4 guys, not giving up too many home runs. He actually bumped his strikeout rate from the previous 2 seasons once he got to the major leagues, so that is good to see. Barnegat, New Jersey, short conference guy. That is definitely, although kind of a bit misleading. Little nuance thing here. He's from Barnegat, New Jersey, but he spent the majority of high school career pitching at the IMG Academy, and then he came back for his senior high school season to play against a bunch of just random public school kids and just absolutely tore it up. But anyways, I think that he would be a decent pickup. We could probably try to milk a couple other things from the Red Sox as well in that trade. And really the only other thing that I'm really interested in here, there's stuff like we could get like Cody Morris here, who's, a similar guy, but I'd probably rather prefer Groom because of the control. But I mean, Morris is fine too. He has a little bit more team control, but he hasn't performed as well. So once again, I'd probably prefer Groom over him. There's deals like, oh, hey, come take Shane Bieber's contract. I'm like, no, thank you. The only other one that I'm really too interested in would be, where is it? This Giants Luke Williams, who is, his ratings aren't the best. He's got a decent eye, but he's pretty much basically like average with everything else. But I mean, he is just the ultra utility man. He can high work ethic, can play all over the place, got some speed to him, can play at a high level all over the place. It hasn't hit in his big league stints that he's gotten with them. Only about a league average hitter in AAA as well. But the thing is, I'm interested in him, but I'm not interested in him with giving up Carson Kelly for him, because I mean, like I said, he's mainly just a utility guy who allows you to maybe even have another reliever in the pen, because you can have him take up like essentially 2 spots on your bench by one guy. Our GM hates it, or our assistant GM hates it. I'm not really a big fan of it. I definitely prefer the Jay Groom route. So I believe that is what we are going to do. Our GM has mixed feelings. I don't really care too much about what he says, though. But we're going to try to milk a couple other things out of the Red Sox here as well. All right, so not the not the biggest deal we're making here. Probably not the most value for us that we're getting for Carson Kelly. But I mean, he is also a guy who, my assistant GM seems to think he has way more value than he actually does because he is a guy who has not performed well the past 2 seasons. I mean, the 2 wars, fine. I would have, I mean, he can be okay. It's just, he's not going to hit, and he's not going to be good enough defensively to like, justify having, him back there just for his defense. And when we can just have a guy who's even better defensively and is also not going to hit for way less money than he would want. So we might as well get Jay Groom, who could be a bullpen guy and also a possible starter for us here. We're just really trying to stack the staff here with as many guys as we possibly can. And then we also get Sedan Rafella, however you say this guy's name. I am aware of him. I very much know who this guy is. I just don't really know how you say his name. 23 years old, kind of utility guy, can play over the place. Never going to be too great anywhere, but he is a guy who can play multiple different positions. Around league average bat for like most things, but then he's got really good avoid K. As you can see last year in Portland, he was a pretty solid hitter. Walked only 7% of the time, but only struck out less than 10% of the time. 17 doubles and 376 plate appearances. Stolen base, decent rates. I'll definitely take him as a player in our system. We do have to give up Jamison Hill here to, be able to get Rafella or whatever his name is. But he's a guy who is probably going to get cut anyways, so it's like, sure, you can have him. And like I said, probably not my best ever trade, but I mean, we're going to do it just because might as well get something for Carson Kelly. So I'm doing my combing through the minor leagues here, and just a little update. I'm seeing that Silas Ardwan was on a hot streak here to end the 2023 campaign. We take a look at his AA splits, and he was indeed on a absolute tear there in August and September. So very interesting to see. Going to be never going to walk a lot with Silas, but even though my scout thinks he is a high discipline guy, which is very odd. So does OSA. But I mean, very encouraging to see that he was tearing things up there to end the minor league season. So it is now where the awards start getting given out, and the Gold Glove in the National League here. I can't help but notice Joe Adell in left field, who, if you're watching the Red Series, is a very, very bad defender, but not shocking that he goes to Colorado and he starts tearing things up for them as a 30 home run, 23 doubles guy. And our man, Ketel Marte, here gets the Silver Slugger at second base, as we probably could have predicted. He had an absolutely absurd season, 143 WRC+, plus, almost 200 hits, 27 home runs, 45 doubles. I mean, just all around ridiculous. So just taking a look at who won the major awards here, the NL's MVP was O'Neal Cruz, who actually won the Gold Glove at first base as well. He had a pretty solid season with the Pirates, I'd say 200 hits, 45 home runs, 34 doubles, led the league in average and slugging. Like I said, Gold Glove at first base too. I mean, pretty ridiculous season for the 6'7" man himself. While in the American League, it's Vladimir Guerrero Jr. who gets the MVP. MJ Melendez finishes third in the voting. Also, Rafi Devers has adopted Buddhism as his religion now, apparently improving his game. The NL Cy Young winner was Jacob deGrom. Ian Anderson. Pretty wild stuff here. I think I talked about it the other day, that it's just wild that he was even, that he's actually as good as he is in real life even, because he is just, I think it's very, very unlikely that a guy like him even makes it to the big leagues, let alone is taken where he was and lives up to what he was. I mean, a high school guy from just a random public high school in upstate New York, and he gets drafted that high as a high school pitcher in upstate New York, not from some academy or something, and he just makes it to the big leagues, and he's just as good as pretty much they thought he was going to be. While in the American League, their MVP was George Kirby from the Mariners, or their Cy Young, I should say. Pretty solid season for the extreme ground baller. That's one of the reasons why I tend to prefer guys who are ground ball pitchers, because you can really luck into seasons with them where they just really, really get their sinker working or whatever the ground ball pitch is, and they just have a season like this, and they're just the best pitcher in the league. Especially if you put a good defense behind them. So as I've mentioned before, we were taking a look at this guy, Kevius Sampson, who was just absolutely nasty in the KBO this year. Won the KBO Outstanding Pitcher Award, and he is available to sign on us. So we are going to go out and offer him a deal that'll cover him for next season, guaranteed at $1.8 million. And then also, if we decide to bring him back, we'll give him like a $200,000 boost, and we will be able to bring him back if we want him. But if we don't and he's bad, we can just buy him out and select on the team option. So this is what we're going to be offering Kevius Sampson here. If we go to his player profile, very, very solid pitcher. Could be a starter for us, could be a reliever. We will just have to see. Once again, just stockpiling pitchers here for 2024. So we do end up giving Mauricio Dubois the $1.6 million that the team offered him through arbitration. And then Edmundo Sosa, I dropped his from 4.2 down to 4 million. He was demanding 5.2 even after the season that he just had between us and the St. Louis. And the arbitrator has ruled in our favor, so we only give him 4 million this season. Now we are here at the free agency filings on November 23rd, and we have about 23 million to spend here this season, 42 million for extensions. So that's basically what basically next year's budget. And so, you know, pretty decent amount of change here to spend for a low payroll team. And let's just hop into it, see who we can grab ourselves here to help improve our team. So since we traded away Carson Kelly, right now our catcher is just Austin Hedges, and we don't really have a guy who can be our backup catcher at this very moment. Right now, I don't even believe, we don't even have a guy up in the big leagues here with us. And if we take a look at the AAA team, it's basically Aaron Antonini, who's okay as a catcher, or it's going to be Nick D'Alessandro, who is the same deal, you know, okay as a catcher. Could they be fine backups? Absolutely. But we could get a guy to come in and back up Hedges to where if he misses a game, or, you know, catchers aren't going to play 162 games, it'd be ideal to have another, like, leader, high catcher ability type guy to pair with him in the catcher duo for us. So first thing I see here is Roberto Perez. He'd be an option, a guy who obviously is going to be really, really bad at the plate. Real boom or bust approach here with the 50 home run power, 55 eye discipline. But he does fit the high catcher ability leader type that we are looking for here. Somebody like Tucker Barnhart could be an option as well. High leader, got decent catcher ability, not the worst of all time hitter either. Definitely was not good in Detroit last season. Doesn't even look like he played in 2023, even in the minor leagues. Yeah, he just flat out wasn't with a team in 2023. I kind of like the idea of having like an all-out boomer bust catcher like this, where if, you know, if he makes contact, he's going to hit a decent amount of home runs, he's going to walk quite a bit, but he's never ever going to make consistent contact, and he's going to strike out a ton. And he could be a decent backup here for us. Andrew Susac, whose brother I believe was a first-round pick in real life here in 2022. I believe he was a first-round pick. I know he was a highly touted catcher coming out of Arizona. I think we are going to go with Andrew Susac here, minor league option deal. We might just give him a major league option deal right off the bat here, just because he is going to be the backup catcher here in the big leagues. So we'll see if we can just, you know, like drop it down to $1 million here. Is he fine with that? He is. $1 million for Andrew Susac. Boom. And I'm kind of tempted to go out and sign Freddie Furman too, just to have him AAA. Because right now we've got Antonini, who we said, but I mean, he's probably similar to Antonini, so I feel like I'd be better off just keeping with what we have and not blocking any of these guys. We just traded for Antonini. D'Alessandro could be fine as a backup catcher. And then even if those guys don't pan out, we've got Silas Audouin down in Double-A, ready to make the jump to Triple-A at some point this season, hopefully. So I feel like we've done a really good job adding a ton of pitching depth here, so I really don't feel like we need to go out and sign any pitchers. We don't really need to improve on too much with the hitting either. I don't feel like just getting the backup catcher. Really the only thing that I could possibly see improving is like shortstop. But I mean, ideally that is Jordan Lawler's job for the taking at some point this season if Perdomo isn't just tearing things up to start here, and like Lawler's in AAA doing his thing. I would be plenty fine with Lawler taking over everyday shortstop duties. Garcia here, Adolis Garcia, could he be the everyday center fielder for us? Absolutely. Could he also be the fourth outfielder while McCarthy goes back down to AAA? Also could be a possibility. DH is probably going to at least start as Jeremiah Jackson because I would like to see what he does with everyday ABs, and I don't want really him to be a backup. While Burleson is either going to be in AAA here or just like the backup bat on the bench. I probably am only going to go with 3 bench players, though, so it'd probably be like Baum, the backup catcher, and I guess probably 4 then. So like the backup catcher, Baum, Sosa, and McCarthy. So somebody's going to be the odd man out here. And the thing about Garcia is he has that 65 range. He's got a 55 rating in center field. Really boom or bust type guy as we've gone over with the home runs and the strikeouts and just playing a decent enough center field. Like he's never going to be a great center fielder for us, but he's got the 65 range. And if we go into free agency here and we take a look at the center fielders who are available, an interesting player that jumps out to me would be Cody Bellinger, who definitely has a little bit of the boomer bust with a home run and discipline, but he's also got a bit better contact, gap power, and avoid Ks. Also got the high work ethic and intelligence, even though it isn't like the stereotype for Bellinger that he's like really just like a dumb dude, bro. I don't know why the intelligence would be there for that. He's also got the 65 outfield range, probably a similar level of center fielder that Garcia would be. He would definitely take much more money than Garcia. He'd probably be a slightly more consistent bat. Obviously, last year with Boston, he was really, really bad in 500 plate appearances, but he was good with the Dodgers in 2022. So, I mean, if we can get this from him, that's definitely good. But, I mean, I feel like it wouldn't be that big of an upgrade on Garcia because Garcia has put up, like, basically 2 WAR seasons, 1.5 WAR, like similar, like league average WRC plus home runs. Isn't going to walk as much as Bellinger, but it's not like Bellinger was walking a ton and getting on base. So I feel like we're better off just rolling with Adolis Garcia here. And if we don't want him playing center field, we can always have somebody like Gigliotti get a shot in center for the defense, or somebody like Esteury Ruiz can get a shot in center field, even though he's probably just a similar defender as Garcia. We did bring back Mauricio Dubois, who's possible guy who could play center field for us if we bring him back up to the big leagues. And then Leody Taveras is also still down in AAA for us, so he's an option as well. Adalberto Mondesi would be a very interesting player. He had an extremely fluky, probably, 2022 here with a 5 WAR. Didn't walk at all, struck out a ton, but probably got a bit lucky with the BABIP, although it wasn't too much lower than average in 2023. Just seems like, I don't really know I guess he hit less doubles. I don't know, I guess he just got a bit luckier in 2022 than he did 2023. But he's a very interesting player. 80 great speed, can play some really solid defense. He's actually better range-wise as an outfielder than he is a center fielder. So he'd be a guy who I absolutely would look at to sign to be our center fielder here, but he is a compensation free agent here. They did qualify him an offer. So if I signed him, he would be we would lose a draft pick, and he's very expensive in the first place. Manuel Margot is another high 70 range guy, good speed, pretty average bat across the board, above average with like gap power and avoid K. Could definitely play a very solid center field for us. Another guy who was around league average hitter-wise in 2022, was not great with Texas last year, but he was a very good center fielder. Not so much with the arm, but with the zone rating, absolutely. Or we could just go like the total cheapo route and go with like Jackie Bradley Jr., who of course has great defensive ratings, although did not play in baseball last year. Did not even play at any level in 2023. And just taking a look at our team's salary page here, it's really like Rojas is a guy who will probably trade at some point. Maybe he plays like 1 or 2 more seasons with us and then we try to get rid of him or something. Well, maybe he still has some value before he like totally falls off. He is 29, so he's definitely an older guy when it comes to where he is in his team control. Sosa's a guy who, probably not really a long-term option for us anywhere. And then really out of all these guys down here, the only one who is potentially somebody we could sign to a long-term extension would be Corbin Carroll, because he is only about to enter his like second season of not even really second season, just he's only had 95 days of major league service. So he's still very young into his major league career here. Obviously was very good, was very bad at first, very good after figuring out in a while, but I would like to see him perform for more than 100 days, and even really only performing for like 60 of those, if that, before I give him a long-term extension. But he's really the only guy out of all these that I would really be looking at and even considering giving a long-term extension like that to. So I feel like we wouldn't be totally out of it or totally irresponsible if we gave Manuel Margot here like something, I don't know, something like maybe 3 years, and like the third year is a team option. I tried to offer him 10 million and he jumped up to 4 years, which is not really what I'm trying to do here. I think we're just gonna roll with the Aroldis Garcia, what we have, Aroldis Garcia, and if he pans out, he pans out. If he doesn't, then we could go with somebody else. But I'm not really. I don't want to give Manuel Margot. I just want to see what we have in Garcia here. Margot's only got slightly better range than Garcia. Obviously, 65 to 70 is a little bit of a jump, but I mean, I don't know. I feel like we'd rather just stick with Garcia here on the cheap deal, see what we have with him. I'm just so against giving out like big contracts in free agency. I never build my team this way. I usually build through the system because it just, I usually try to scour for guys that have like really good value that we can just, maybe get 1 or 2 good years out of in free agency, not guys long-term deals. Like Ohtani, yeah, obviously would be very fun to have. But I mean, do we really want to be giving him that much money and probably, towards the back end of his career? Boom, we end up getting that KBO starter, Kevia Sampson. Is he going to be a starter for us? Is he going to be a reliever? I don't know, but he is going to be on our big league roster here. All right, so we just did the Rule 5 draft here, and we did lose a couple players. Both Mauricio Dubois and Corbin Martin were both taken. Dubois to the Marlins. Yeah, I know, that's fine. He's, utility guy, was in AAA for us, wasn't even on the 40-man roster, obviously. They can have him, sure, whatever. Corbin Martin, possible decent arm to have, just wasn't really performing for us in Reno or the big leagues last season. So, he's going to go to Milwaukee, get a change of scenery. I actually thought that we were going to lose more guys. I ended up adding, if we scroll through here, Jorge Barrosa to our 40-man just to protect him, because he was a guy who's been crushing in the minor leagues for us when he gets a chance. And he's in AAA this year to start. But he's on the 40-man roster to protect him as a possible other outfield bat. I thought that Alexis Diaz was going to be taken in the Rule 5 because he's on the 40-man roster, but turns out he wasn't. So we actually do have Alexis Diaz still in the organization, just not on the 40-man roster. So we are here at the February player development update, and we are seeing that Kevia Sampson has actually gotten his current and potential stuff and movement and overall potential ratings as starting pitcher have all improved. So Sampson definitely looking solid here heading into the season. Also, we went ahead and signed Uceda. We just extended him for 1 more season. And Stefan, because I feel like Uceda is a guy we just get another year of arbitration. We buy at 1 year's arbitration to be like the 1 million. I feel like he's a guy who's probably going to have a decent season, and he probably won't be worth 1.6 million next season. But also Stefan's a guy similar to that, where if we take a look at his salary page and we pull up Trevor Stephan, I have him guaranteed at 1.4 because I feel like he's a guy who's in a role where he could be very much better than what he's currently slated to get, and getting him at 1.4 would be definitely a steal for next season, I feel like. So we did that with him and Uceda. Alrighty, we have reached spring of 2024.